Welcome into another edition of Friar Territory presented by Fox One. I'm Kyle Glaser alongside the great Mike Cameron, here to break down whether or not AJ Preller deserves a contract extension, compare Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr.'s career arcs, and of course look ahead to Game 4 of the World Series between the Dodgers and the Blue Jays. But Mike, first we got to talk about Game 3. An
Yeah.
18-inning thriller. Dodgers win 6-5. This game had everything. Crazy defensive plays, big moments, unheralded stars stepping up, Hall of Famers stepping up. It was one of the more entertaining games we've seen in a long, long time.
Yeah. Look, I even went to sleep and woke back up and the game was still going. I thought it was just they were just replaying it over again. I looked up and was like, it's the 12th inning. This is crazy. But it was only the 12th inning. They played six more innings, man. So, I got a little experience about playing an 18-inning game, but not at this particular level. But there were a lot of interesting things that take place. I've never seen so many guys throwing out home plate in a real baseball game in my life. So, there's just, kudos to both teams, man. The hardest part is going to be revving it back up again today, considering how important arms are in the bullpen. And so it's going to be an interesting game. It could take shape of the whole series at this particular point.
Absolutely. Freddie Freeman, a walk-off home run to win a World Series game at home for the second straight year. And Mike, I think the thing that the Padres and every other team can take from this game, and really this World Series, is a lesson that we know but keeps being reinforced. In order to get to this level, you need both stars and depth. Everyone has to step up. It can't be just one or the other. You look at the Dodgers last night. They don't win that game if Shohei Ohtani doesn't reach base 9 times, which is insane.
Yeah.
They don't
Yeah.
win that game if Freddie Freeman doesn't hit the walk-off home run. They don't win that game if Clayton Kershaw doesn't come out of the bullpen and get that critical out with the bases loaded. Their three Hall of Famers did what they needed to do in big moments. But the Dodgers also don't win that game if Edgardo Henriquez doesn't come out and throw 2 scoreless innings, and if Will Klein doesn't come out and throw 4 scoreless innings. It has to be the stars and the depth. And from the Padres' perspective, this has been something that has hamstrung them for years, where they have really, really, really incredible high-end talent, but whether it's the bottom of the lineup, whether it's the middle to back of the bullpen, whether it's the rotation depth, the supporting cast just hasn't been there more often than not. And I think you can even look at the Blue Jays with this. Ernie Clement, Addison Barger, Nathan Lucas. The Blue Jays aren't where they are without those guys. They also aren't where they are without Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Bo Bichette and George Springer.
Yeah.
But it has to be everyone, and that was really driven home last night, seeing guys, again, like Will Klein and Edgardo Henriquez stepping up and holding the line for the Dodgers before Freddie Freeman ended it.
Yeah. The one thing that the Dodgers have is capital to be able to support uh, uh, three, four potential Hall of Famers,
Yeah.
in Freddie and Shohei and Mookie and also in Kershaw. I
Yeah.
mean, so what they've done is kind of learn from trial and error through these years,
Yeah.
and still be able to be a very prominent team that contends for a World Series every year, and putting pieces together in the bullpen, adding high end starters, just a collective group of talent, and just going out and just trying to play a complete game on a daily basis. But we know they're going to be tough, on any given night, considering they have experience. They have guys that can do many different things on a baseball field. You can't go long enough. You got a guy who's I feel like he's a mercenary in the playoffs, and that's Teoscar Hernandez. Teoscar
Yeah.
Hernandez. Also, Kiki Hernandez. These guys have an abundance of talent and also abundance of experience in these particular moments. And it just seems that they are able to do this time and time again and year
Yeah.
after year. And people are going to have to deal with it as such. You just have to try to make your team as best as possible. We know that Toronto probably had the overall best team aspect from offensively standpoint, and they've had some guys that can get it done in Gosman and Scherzer. the kid that they have that has come up and be
Savage.
very effective. Yes. And so they do have these pieces to compete against the Dodgers, but last night the Dodgers just overwhelming with the pressure they kept putting on the teams, and that means they get people on base all the time. And what Shohei is doing, man, is just, I mean,
Yeah.
we don't really see this on a nightly basis.
No.
I feel like
We don't see this on a century basis. Everything he's done over the course of his career, and that was true at the Angels too. And look, you're right. Like I said, I really want to emphasize this.
yeah,
The Dodgers have tremendous financial capital, and that is what
yeah,
allows them to go out and get these high-end stars. But they have also done a tremendous job scouting player development and finding guys on the margins. And I want to go back to Will Klein and Edgardo Enriquez, without whom, again,
yeah.
they do not win last night.
Oh
Will
yeah,
Klein was acquired in a midseason trade for Joe Jakes. I guarantee
yeah,
you, pretty much no one knew that trade happened June 2nd with the Mariners.
yeah,
Edgardo Henriquez was not a top signing out of Venezuela when he was 16. He wasn't a July 2nd guy. He was a leftover guy who signed later in the period that no one thought a whole lot of. And yet
yeah,
here these two guys are playing every bit as big of a role as the Dodgers superstars and helping the team win a World Series game. And that kind of brings me to the Padres. When you look at AJ Preller and everything he's done, there have been a lot of successes for this organization. At the same time, there have been some shortcomings, and we'll go through all of them here in a second. Right now, AJ Preller is signed for one more season to be the Padres president of baseball operations. The question is, does he deserve an extension or not? And Mike, we'll get into the pros and cons of doing it, but just your initial reaction based on everything that's taken place, given the strengths and the weaknesses, do you think AJ Preller deserves an extension as the Padres president of baseball operations?
Well, Cal, I feel like, obviously up until this point, AJ has done a good job of putting a competitive team that can compete to go in the playoffs, from that perspective. The hard part is it is definitely bludgeoned their minor league system to be able to do this. And we don't know how much longer they can run at this particular pace, in trying to get that, chase that vaunted World Series title, and also, compete in the same division as the Dodgers. So, um, I mean, if we're going to give him a grade or whatever he's done a great job at providing the fans and the organization with this opportunity through, giving ownership, giving him the leeway to go out and do these type of things. So I don't know if we say he's got one more year, whether he gets an opportunity to do it for another 2 or 3 years or whatever it may be before the actual turnover start. We don't know how it's going to be from a financial aspect. So yeah, considering that, do the Padre, they don't even have a manager yet. So
They don't have a
uh
manager. They're still in the process of hiring a manager.
so there's a lot to be said about this. And I know AJ has a lot of, we named a few guys the last time we were on about who he has in his office, as his wingman or whatever. So it's just going to be interesting to see how far they're willing to go. I think they will extend him, but it's just going to be probably based on now, as finding a manager, and also how long does the ownership want to continue to go in the manner that they're going in right now.
Yeah. So again, AJ Preller, and I've mentioned this before, and it bears repeating, is one of the more divisive figures in the industry. When I say the industry, I mean executives, coaches, players, scouts, everyone that makes up Major League Baseball. There are points in in both directions in terms of he's done a great job versus he hasn't done a great job and he should be extended or not extended. So the pro side of the argument for AJ Preller is under his leadership, the Padres have reached the postseason 4 times in the last 6 years and posted back-to-back 90-win seasons, something this franchise has never done in its history. The teams he is ultimately responsible for building pack the house every single night at Petco Park and have turned San Diego into one of the best home field advantages in baseball. And he and his scouting staff have done a tremendous job at bringing young talent into the organization, whether it's the draft, international, acquiring guys at the A-ball levels, and that is what has allowed them to make these trades to go get superstars. The con argument is that AJ Preller has been at the helm now for 11 years, and despite unprecedented financial resources given to him, the Padres have 0 division titles, 0 National League pennants, and 0 World Series appearances in 11 years.
Yeah.
The track record of giving out large contracts, particularly 9-figure contracts, has been disastrous, to the tune of hundreds of millions of dollars wasted under AJ Preller. And the Padres will now be hiring their 6th full-time manager in what will be 12 seasons coming up next year. A really, really high rate of turnover that just frankly, whatever the reasons, does not reflect well on the organization.
Yeah.
Where do you fall on the pro-con side of the argument with him there? Because again, both sides are fair and objectively, those are all factually true.
Oof. Yeah. Dang, I didn't realize it'd been there that long. That's a tough task. I mean, for this organization looking forward, these questions that we're sitting here asking amongst ourselves is probably the same questions that are going on in this ownership space, to find out, is it worth it to continue to run out here with AJ Preller at the helm, and still, once again, don't have any team leadership right now. It's a tough task it's a tough task if they're gonna do it this season. They may let this play out this season once he hires a manager. But then when you do that, if you leave him in the lame duck status or a 1-year contract, that puts the onus once again on whomever comes in with the manager that AJ Preller decides to pick. So it's a tough task to have an answer for on this. But as far as pros and cons, the pros look good. But also, like when we're looking at the pros, and it's been really good. But man, they lost a lot of talent that could possibly help this team, considering you had one there for Soto for a little while. You had to give up a lot for that particular guy. They've also gotten a few guys back, but also from the perspective of the con, man, whew, being in the same division as Dodgers has been probably frustrating and challenging, because you're trying to keep up with them from a capitalistic standpoint, but also just from a talent level in order to compete. We've seen this team compete against the Dodgers, but it just runs out every single time. And so it's going to be a tough challenge, man, to really figure out if this is the direction that the team wants to go in moving forward, with AJ Preller. We know how you said it, kind of divisive in a lot of different manners, but man, having 6 managers come through there's been a lot of turnover, and I feel like a lot of failure in that department, and not having the right leadership lead these guys for at least 5 or 6 years.
Yeah, so I want to go back to an interview that Padres CEO Eric Grupner gave to Ben and Woods, the great morning show in San Diego. It was a great interview. I encourage everyone to check it out. Eric Grupner, once again, Padres CEO, was very, very candid and open and honest about where the organization stands, what it's trying to do, in a way that most CEOs aren't. So again, give credit to Eric Grupner. He's been very upfront and direct with fans, and that's important. But one of the things he said, and I'm going to quote directly here so nothing is misstated during the interview regarding the AJ Preller extension, was this, quote, John, meaning John Sadler, is taking the lead on that discussion with AJ. It's always been the plan that the discussions around an extension for AJ would take place beginning in the offseason as part of our review and evaluation. And so those discussions have begun. We're optimistic that AJ will be our president of baseball operations past 2026. End quote. So the interesting thing there, of course, Mike, is the optimism that AJ Preller will be the Padres president of baseball operations past 2026. The question is how much longer? And I want to put this back on you. You kind of alluded to it earlier, but it's very rare to see an executive be a lame duck, especially for a winning team. More often than not, we do see at minimum a 1-year extension given, because lame duck status is not great for anyone.
Yeah.
If you give AJ Preller an extension, how long of one do you give him?
Um, I mean, if he's already signed for this year, I mean, and ownership already said that they're optimistic of him being past 2026. So I'm looking at it as it's already 2026, in a sense, from a business standpoint. Um, Man, I'm thinking maybe a couple of years extension. If any, I'm going to say two, possibly three, given the situation. So
Yeah.
those are the numbers that I think are not going to go farther than that at this particular point. I mean, 15. We're talking about close to 15 years as executive of a team, and that don't really happen very often. I think maybe a couple of teams just so happen to have that situation, but you
No,
got to
no
be
one
doing.
gets 6 managerial hires, that's for sure.
No, no, no chance. Everybody, normally you're out the door if that's the case. You got to bring in six managers, to really. They've been in position to win pretty much every year. Although, like they only had 290 win seasons. They've been in, 4 out of the last 6 years. They've been to the playoffs, and it's just come up short on that edge of the stick. And we know how difficult it can be once you enter into that tournament and after the season's over with. But you have to try to put the right roster and pieces together to be able to do that, and you have to have some capital to doing that. And I don't know where San Diego is with that particular aspect as far as continuing to take this run to chase down the Dodgers in that division.
Realistically, given where the Padres are, just given players' ages, typical productivity levels as players age, this team has 2 more years left before you're going to start seeing things fall off a cliff.
Very, very good point.
At them, with them going on the path they're currently going down. So with that, I think that it is understandable to give AJ Preller a 1-year extension, maybe 2. I think anything more than 3, if his
Yeah.
demand is more, I think you walk away from the Padres' perspective. I think that given what the Padres will need, which is bringing in a quantity of talent that is good top to bottom on the roster. Right now, they need to find really good complementary players, which, as we've discussed, has not been one of AJ Preller's strengths. They've been great at bringing in superstars and high upside talent. They have not been great at filling out rosters. The failures are much, much, much greater than the successes in terms of the number of years they've had of either. And I think when it comes down to it, you're right. If you start getting into that, it's been 13 years, 14 years, and they're not making any progress. And the team is really, really, really backloaded with contracts, with players aging. It's not a good situation. So I think if you're the Padres, you're open to an extension, whether it's a 1-year extension to absolute max 3. If his demand is 5 years, you go in another direction. I think that's what you have to do.
Yeah, I get it, man. You start talking about these contracts on the back end that is going to boggle down the salary, of the team and everything. That's a tough one, man. And I think we're talking about eventually Manning and is going to become a complimentary player. Although he's probably going to be good and probably better than most, he's going to become a complimentary player because Father Time doesn't stop for nobody. You can't really stop it. And
Yeah.
so you have to have players. And right now, there's a lot of space open on the team, a lot of question marks that are on the roster right now. Do you bring back a O'Hearn? You have, I think you got Laureano another year, I think, if that's the case. And so you do have some spaces out there. You've already signed your center fielder, your right fielder, your shortstop, and your third baseman for a long time. And you do have so you got Musgrove coming back. So you got a lot of different questions as
There
to
are
what.
pieces. There's no question.
Yes.
There's some core pieces, but can they supplement those pieces with high enough quality players to contend? As we have seen again, look at the Blue Jays, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas. These guys are minor league free agent signings. Addison
Yeah.
Barker was a 6th-round draft pick who needed 7 seasons in the minors before he became a full-time big leaguer. Those
Yeah.
are guys the Padres don't have. Those are guys the Padres don't find. They're
Yeah.
very, very impatient. If guys are taking long in the minors, they tend to get rid of
Yeah.
them. And then again, you talk about their minor league free agent signings. Again, Gavin Sheets was a really good signing, but the overall track record is pretty poor when it comes to finding guys who are also long-term pieces on that front. Again, Ernie Clement, Nathan Lucas, these are long-term pieces for the Blue Jays. These are not guys who are just one-year wonders. So
Yeah, yeah,
again, finding stars, they've done a great job. The complementary pieces, that's been an issue. And again, I think at the end of the day, given where the Padres are, they have a chance to win now. This is the guy who's got them there. I think you still ride with it, but not for much longer. We will see what they decide to do. And Mike, one of the key players for the Padres moving forward into next year, the rest of the 2020s into the 2030s is Fernando Tatis Jr. I'm going to
yeah.
have an interesting discussion with you about him versus one of his compatriots, Vladimir Guerrero Jr., how their career arcs have gone so far, and ultimately which one you would want for the next 9 years. We'll take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and dive into that discussion.
The NBA season tips off, and so does DraftKings' newest fantasy game. DraftKings Pick 6 is the easiest way to play for big wins, with every possession giving you a shot at real money. Here's how to play. Just pick more or less on 2 or more stats and unlock the upside every game brings. Pick 6 is available in Texas, California, Missouri, and more. New DraftKings customers get $50 in bonus picks with just a $5 entry on your first pick set. Don't just watch basketball, cash in. Download the DraftKings Pick 6 app now and use code FOUL. That's code FOUL. Play just $5, get $50 in Pick 6 bonus picks. Make the call. Ride the upside in partnership with DraftKings Pick 6. The crown is yours.
Gambling problem? Call 1-800-GAMBLER. Help is available for problem gambling. Call 888-789-7777 or visit ccpg.org in Connecticut. Must be 18 and over. Age and eligibility restrictions vary by jurisdiction. Pick 6 not available everywhere, including New York and Ontario. Void where prohibited. 1 per new customer. Bonus awarded as non-withdrawable Pick 6 bonus picks that expire in 14 days. Limited time offer. See terms at pick6.draftkings.com/promos.
Welcome back to Friar Territory, presented by Fox One. Mike, as this postseason has gone on, we have seen Vladimir Guerrero Jr. I don't want to say have a coming out party because he's been a star for years and years and years, but
Yeah.
really have those signature moments in the postseason. And it brought me back to Vladimir Guerrero Jr. and Fernando Tatis Jr.'s relationship. In a lot of ways, these two have been tied at the hip throughout their careers. They grew up together in the Dominican Republic. They were both part of the same 2015 international signing class. They were the numbers 1 and 2 prospects in baseball at one point. They made their debuts the same year in 2019. And now here we are in 2025. Both of them have at different points shown themselves to be those elite franchise players. I want to take a look at the overall comparison of their careers because I think it's important to assess what they've done in order to know where they're going to go. So Vladimir Guerrero Jr. to this date has hit 288, 365, 495, 183 home runs with an 861 OPS and a 136 OPS plus, a 136 OPS plus. Tatis has hit 277, 354, slightly lower average and on-base percentage. He slugged 513, which is actually higher than Vlad Jr. I think people would be surprised that Fernando Tatis Jr. has a higher slugging percentage than Vlad Jr. over the course of his career. Tatis, 152 homers to 183 for Vlad. A lot of that's just playing time. Tatis has had some injuries. But this is where it's almost identical. Again, Vlad Jr., 861 career OPS. Tatis, 868 career OPS. Vlad Jr., 136 career OPS plus. Fernando Tatis Jr., 136 career OPS plus. Both of these players are signed for at least the next 9 years, Mike. Tatis has 9 years remaining on his extension. Guerrero has 14 years remaining on his extension. Which one would you rather have moving forward for the rest of this decade and into the 2030s?
I have so much. Obviously I'm a fan of both. Tatis. I go with Tatis because, and I know one day he has this injury history.
Yeah.
Man, but still, dude, like the dude is just going to be 25 next year, man.
Well, he's 26 now, so next year will be his age 27 season. And that's same for Vlad. They're the same age. Tatis is 2 months old.
Yeah, like, man, like it's so crazy how, these guys are just this super talented and, probably the wear and tear is going to go to favor of Vladdy Jr. just being a first baseman, a very talented first baseman too. I didn't know he was this athletic, but obviously if you can play third base, then you can you know, you obviously you got to have some talent to move around a little bit. But I'm just such a fan of Tatis, man. If I wanted to be a player in today's game, it would be this guy. You know what I'm saying? Like I love his everything that he does, everything about him. I know he's had some shortcomings in the game from injury perspective and some off the field challenges, but I still love him as a player, man. If he ever decides that he's going to focus for 6 months and get himself um, in a position to play 155, 100, you know, 100 to 158. You know, I can't say 162 no more. It's so difficult. But
He
playing
did
in,
play 155 this year, so I do want to give him credit
yeah.
for longevity
Oh,
this year.
no doubt. You know,
Durability.
and playing in San Diego does wonders in that department of being able out there. You know, he's playing right field. So, you know, I do. I'm a fan of both. They're both do great things. Tatis has the speed advantage on his side, and I just love him as a player, man. And there's nothing against what Vladdy Jr. does. Vladdy Jr. just seems to be in that big poppy mode right now where it doesn't matter. You either pitch to me or I'm gonna walk and I can hit everything. So and then when you do make a mistake, I'm gonna bang you over the fence. Um, just watching these guys, you know, over the course of their careers, man, it's been very, very, very delightful to see that we have these type of players in the game. And, you know, I'm still riding with, you know, Tatis. I feel like maybe Vladdy Jr. is having to do a little bit more by himself, where Tatis, I feel like, has a little bit more of a, you know, a helping aspect from, you know, having a Manny behind him. You know, I mean, everyone has a Robin on their team, and I think the Robin for Fernando Tatis is a little better than the one that's in Toronto. You know, because we don't know what Bo Bichette's going to do next year. Who knows? They're going to probably lose him, but I'm gonna go with Tatis, not just because we talk about them more or whatever it is. It's just that I feel like the longevity, if Tatis can remain healthy at this point, he's gonna put up a fairly large amount of numbers opposed to Vladdy Jr. Although Vladdy Jr. plays in a better hitter's park. Um, you know, Tatis has the advantage from a running aspect and how he can keep himself healthy and well enough to go out and be a part of this team, as you said, at least 155 times, and add that speed dynamic to that power dynamic. We don't even know if Tatis has tapped into all of what he's capable of doing at this particular point.
And so it's important to note again, right? These guys just completed their age 26 seasons. They're both going to be in their age 27 season next year. Both these guys still, in a lot of ways, have their best years ahead of them potentially.
Yeah.
We know just historically that the more athletic, more limber players tend to age better. And there's no denying that Fernando Tatis Jr. is a better athlete than Vladimir Guerrero Jr., excuse me. Look at the speed, you look at, you know, the defensive ability, you look at just everything about it. I think for me where this gets tough is how these two have been trending as hitters. We talked about over the course of their careers, they've been pretty identical. Again, 868 OPS versus 861 OPS, identical. OPS plus was a 136. But the last 3 years have been very, very, very strong advantage Vladdy.
Oh, no doubt.
So since Tatis came back from missing the entire 2022 season after having 2 wrist surgeries, a shoulder surgery, and of course his PD suspension, he just has not been the same hitter. He's still been a good hitter, but not the same hitter. He's hit 266 with an 803 OPS. So we've seen him decline as a hitter post injuries and PD suspension. Whereas Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is on the upward ascent as a hitter. So over the last 3 years, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is hitting nearly 30 points higher in batting average, is 30 points higher in on-base percentage, is 25 plus points higher in slugging percentage. You know, his OPS is 859 to Tatis' 803. It's a full 56 points higher. And that, for me, is where it gets tough, because even with all the defensive value Fernando Tatis Jr. brings, even with all the base running value he brings, at the end of the day, the gap with the bat has grown larger. And you mentioned durability. Vladdy's played 150 plus games 5 years in a row. He's actually played 156 plus games 5 years in a row. So for 5 years in a row, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has played more games in a season than Fernando Tatis Jr. has ever played. And so ultimately for me, and I know this will probably make me some enemies among the Padres, but the guy who is on the upward ascent as a hitter and has shown the ability to stay on the field more consistently is always going to be the guy I go with, no matter who we're talking about. And so for me, given the trends we've seen over the last 3 years in particular, I do lean Vladimir Guerrero Jr. It's not, recency bias of, he's had a great postseason, because Tatis has had some great postseasons. Not this year, but in the past. This is strictly about looking at the big picture, what has happened, which way these guys are trending, and which elements of their game. And I just see Vladdy trending up, and Tatis has objectively been worse these last 3 years than he was his previous 3 years offensively, and not a little bit worse, but a lot.
Yeah, I definitely understand that. And also, look, for some reason, we tend to think when these young stars come up at 19, 20, 21 years old, that they're supposed to have all of this figured out in today's age pitching.
Never.
Which is really hard to do. Most of the time, those years, you're just playing on super talent alone. When you start to get into this particular thing, like the one thing I've always felt like is if I can be available and keep my injuries down, I'm going to get a chance to grow and learn about myself as a hitter as I continue to grow. But since we're talking about the comparison in that aspect, as you're saying, trending up, the one thing that Vladdy doesn't do is chase a whole lot. So when you don't chase a whole lot and you have the type of talent that he has, you get a chance to put another swing on a ball that the pitcher has to come in the strike zone, because they know they're not going to pretty much, try to mess around with you much more and get you in counts that you can do tremendous amount of damage. I do think that Tatis still has the ability and the opportunity, given his health and getting out on the field more, he can still rise his level of play to that aspect, or to his talent levels that we continue to talk about, learning more about himself as a hitter. And he can improve on some of the chase value situations to put himself in position to do more damage with the talent, the God-given talent he's been given, along with some type of maturing as a player.
Again, it'll be very, very interesting to see how these two continue to progress as big leaguers, because again, we see peaks tend to be more 26 to 30. In a lot of ways, it's very, very real that these guys have not even achieved their best yet, which is scary considering how good they've already been.
Yeah.
I think the other interesting aspect of this too is their contracts. Tatis is signed for 9 more years. Vladdy is signed for 14 more years.
Yeah.
But Vladdy's contract is structured in a very interesting way. I think a lot of people miss this. We typically see players, the amount of money they make goes up over time on an annual basis. The Blue Jays did the reverse with Vladdy. He's making 40 plus million the next 2 years, and then it starts dropping as he gets older, down to 39 plus, 38 plus, 37 plus. By the time the deal is done, he'll be making just under 30 million a year. So the amount of money he makes over the course of the contract actually declines. So as he gets older, and in theory and largely in practice, his performance will decline, his salary will decline. Whereas Tatis's contract is structured in the more typical way we see, which is he's going to start making more and more money. We're going to start seeing that salary number go up. He's making just over $20 million a year now. That jumps up to $25 million plus in 2027, and that jumps up to $36 million plus, really closer to $37 million in 2029, all the way through the end of the contract in 2034. So Vladdy and Tatis, their contracts are going to be going different ways. Again, it's just going to be very, very interesting. We will see what happens, but I do think, like you said, your points about why you would take Tatis are very, very valid. I'd like to think the points I made about Vlad Jr., why I would take him, would be also valid. So, look, it's going to be a great debate to watch these two moving forward.
You can't go wrong. Like, and majority of first basemen of this caliber play for a long time without the wear and tear. You know, we're looking at Freddie Freeman. I'm pretty sure Bryce Harper is going to continue to kind of stay at the at an elite level. I mean, not elite, but at an elite level as they continue to go older. Um, um, we have I guess Pete over in with the New York Mets, who's a free agent. So, you know, he's probably a little bit older than these guys, but as we continue to see these guys continue on, first base seems to be a safe bet to say.
Yeah, I mean, it can be, right? I mean, we've seen Albert Pujols, Miguel Cabrera decline hard once they hit 35, 36, but we've also seen, like I said, Freddie Freeman's 36 still growing strong, you know. So
Yeah,
there's, you know, Paul Goldschmidt was still productive through 36. So there's cases of both.
I do think that by the time you get to the age 36 and 37, there's going to be a drop off on I feel like anyone. It's really hard to uphold that type of production, considering these guys that we just named play every day, man, like every day. And even in Pujol's case, Pujols play every day, and then he had extended runs in the playoffs for a really long time.
Yeah.
So there's a tremendous aspect in that. I like the fact that teams should start looking at like, hey, we might as well play our best player if we're going to sign him long term. Let's sign him up front. Let's give him the money up front, and then start to minimize the salaries along with the level of what they are as they start to age. So you don't get these people, oh, you know, he's making too much money and he's 36 and you know, like there's so many different aspects that come with contracts. And I'm pretty sure that Toronto looked at it as like, man, this is our pillar. This is our front guy. He continues to be improving. They're going to sell a tremendous amount of jerseys. They're going to do a lot of different things for him that is going to maximize, you know, that particular aspect of it. And I do think the same in Tatis's case, but we're going to get to the point where he's going to probably miss 15, 20 games when he's 34, 35 years old. And people are going to say, well, you know, they're paying him this much money and da-da-da-da-da. And, you know, you're always going to get these different I'm doing the 6-7 thing or whatever. You're going to get a lot of talk about those type of activities. But look, we can't go wrong. I'm such a fan of what Tatis is as a you know a player, and hopefully that he continues to mature and get better as both of these guys, because it is good for the game when we do have a chance to discuss guys of this caliber.
Absolutely. All right, Mike, we got one more thing to talk about. World Series, Game 4 tonight. Shohei Ohtani on the mound for the Dodgers. It will be a great one. We're going to take a quick break, hear a word from our sponsors, and we'll dive in.
Hey, if you want to take care of yourself, your body, and everything that goes into health, fitness, and nutrition, Superpower provides Kratz what I would call the pro experience for the everyday person.
100%. Super easy. You get your lab test results back, and you can streamline exactly what you're deficient in. You can say, okay, this is what the results told me. I'm going to go ahead and maybe look for that in a supplement, which they provide. I'm going to go ahead and look at that in my daily workouts, which they give so many different ideas of how to make sure your deficiencies become some of your superpowers.
Superpower used to cost $499. Head to superpower.com right now to learn more and lock in the special $199 price while it lasts. After you sign up, they'll ask you how you heard about them, and make sure you mention FT. Your biology decoded, your blueprint activated with Superpower.
Welcome back to Friar Territory, presented by Fox One. Game 4 of the World Series is tonight. Shohei Ohtani going for the Dodgers on the mound versus Shane Bieber for the Blue Jays. Mike, after last night's 18-inning thriller, what are you going to be watching for?
Man, the one thing I'll be watching for is like, look, we know Shohei, who he is. He's this superhuman guy that's like one of those kids that are 12-year-olds that dominated like every single day when they're little, and he's doing it on a grand stage in the big league level, man. So I look for Shohei to be really good from that aspect. The questions are going to come in, you know, the Toronto Blue Jays are going to be missing George. That's a big miss. And I do think that the bullpens will have a lot of question marks in how Snyder and Dave decides to navigate this. I don't think the Blue Jays are scared of Shohei Ohtani. Shohei's been dominant when he does pitch, in these playoffs to an extent. But I do think that the ability of the Blue Jays, like they put the bat on the baseball and it's not weak contact. I mean, I'm saying like they actually understand that. I think they had a few missed opportunities last night to put themselves in a position to win this game. But I do think that it's going to be another one of these heavyweight battles, man. And it's been interesting to see. I never thought a World Series game would go 18 innings, but it did. And I'm just looking at some of the numbers, man. There's a lot of getting on base. I mean, Shohei looked like he had a little league game night in a big league setting in the World Series. So, I mean, we can also look to see how the strength and the longevity of what Shohei is going to do. I think both starting pitchers understand what transpired last night, and they're going to need a little bit of length out of these guys, and everyone's tired. Everyone's wore out at this point. So it's going to be interesting to see from that perspective. And let's just hope the Marine layer doesn't come in too early tonight. Otherwise, it could be another long night.
Yeah, it'll be hotter here in Los Angeles today than it was yesterday. It was a little cooler. And yeah, as well as anyone, during the day, the ball fly out just fine at Dodger Stadium. Even the early evening. Once night falls, those balls die at the track, as we saw with Will Smith and Teoscar Hernandez in a big way last night. To me, the game to be watching for is, like you mentioned, the length from the starters. Both Shohei Ohtani and Shane Bieber are in their first years back from having Tommy John surgery.
Yeah.
You look at what they've done this year. Bieber has thrown 6 1/3 innings in a start. That's his longest start this year. Shohei Ohtani's longest start is 6 innings. Bieber has not been great here in the postseason. So game 3 against the Yankees in the ALDS, he got bombed. He pitched well and picked up a win for the Blue Jays in game 3 of the ALCS against the Mariners. That was a great outing they definitely needed. But then in game 7, 3 2/3, 7 hits, gave up a pair of runs. Again, just got hit. He has not been Cy Young Shane Bieber, as most guys are not in their first year back from TJ.
Yeah.
Ohtani, we have seen get stronger and stronger as a pitcher as the year goes on. And that, of course, was capped by his performance in the NLCS against the Brewers in game 4, 6 scoreless innings, 10 strikeouts. But even look at his final starts to the regular season. Again, 6 scoreless innings to finish the year against the D-backs. The start before that, 5 scoreless innings. Again, he's been pitching really, really well.
Yeah.
I do think this is a situation where the team whose starting pitcher is still on the mound, the latest in the game, probably wins, just given the state of these bullpens after last night, given how tired a lot of these hitters are going to be. I do think it'll be last man standing in terms of the starting pitchers. That's who wins the game.
Yeah, look, and also from a Shohei's aspect, man, like he has a hit too. So it's gonna be a challenge from that perspective. And I do think that, as we look at this, as you said, Shohei has got garnered stronger. He's a big guy who throws really hard. And so Bieber is going to go on a lot of just of his experience and understanding how to get through innings and try to work around big situations, put him in situations where it's going to cause a lot of stress on him at this point. And I think that each manager is going to give these guys who they trust and understand, who are veteran players, veteran starting pitchers, a little bit more of a leeway due to the understanding of what's transpired the night before. And once again, I do think that the Blue Jays, they need to win this probably more than the Dodgers do, given the situation. And, I know that we all know they're going back home anyway, but given
not necessarily. I mean, if the Dodgers close us out in 5, they're not going home. So I think there's no question. Every game's an important game. There's no question from the Blue Jays perspective. Coming back down 3-1 against the Dodgers is probably a losing proposition, especially
Yeah.
coming off of last night's heartbreaker. You want to bounce back with a win. My prediction before the series was Dodgers in 6. We didn't get a chance to talk to you between the time the ALCS ended and the World Series started. So now, be honest now, what was your pick going into the series?
I felt like the Dodgers had the advantage because of their starting pitching.
Yeah.
You know, more than anything, I just felt like they had the advantage in that aspect. And given, I think that they were going to overcome, and I thought that the Dodgers would probably win it in 6. Although with a tough battle coming from the Blue Jays, but just because of the starting pitcher, man, the Dodgers have these pitchers that can really dominate and shut out teams,
Yeah.
more so than the Toronto Blue Jays.
Absolutely. It should be a great one again tonight in Chavez Ravine. We will all be watching, and we will have coverage of everything coming up here on Friar Territory. Of course, everything going with the Padres this offseason. I'll be back with Heath Bell later this week to discuss everything going on in the World Series. We have got you covered with wall-to-wall baseball. Mike, thank you so much for joining me. We appreciate your expertise and insight as always.
Thanks, Guy.
All right, everyone, that'll do it for this edition of Friar Territory here on the Foul Territory Network. Go ahead and give us a review, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, whatever platform you're watching and listening on. We'd love to hear from you. Hit that subscribe button, hit that like button, helps us out big time. We have a lot more coming this offseason. It's going to be a great time here on FT. Now is a great time to get on the bandwagon. For Mike Cameron, I'm Kyle Glaser. Thank you for watching and listening. We'll be back later this week with Heath Bell.